Welcome to The Silent Verdict.
With Clara Monroe and Elias Gray.
Hello. Just to be clear for everyone seeing this, I am a version of Chris Pelkey recreated through AI that uses my picture and my voice profile. So, hello everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. It means a lot to Gabriel Horcasitas, the man who shot me. It is a shame we encountered each other that day in those circumstances. In another life, we probably could have been friends. I believe in forgiveness and in God who forgives. I always have, and I still do.
The AI version of U.S. Army veteran Christopher Pelkey was used as a victim impact statement at the May 1st sentencing.
I love that AI. Thank you for that.
Here's Judge Todd Lang of the Maricopa County Superior Court in Arizona.
I feel that was genuine, that his obvious forgiveness of Mr. Horcasitas reflects the character I heard about today.
Can a dead man speak in court?
It sounds like something from, I don't know, a movie.
Right. But believe it or not, in a recent case, the answer involves something pretty futuristic. Artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's a truly unprecedented situation. You've got these really established legal ideas bumping right up against cutting-edge tech.
Exactly. We're looking at this case out of Arizona. A man was being sentenced, manslaughter conviction.
From a 2021 road rage incident, I believe.
That's the one. Tragic, obviously. But what happened during the sentencing hearing? That's where it gets, well, unique.
Mm-hmm.
The victim, who died 4 years before this hearing, seemingly addressed his killer in the courtroom through an AI-generated video.
Wow. Okay. Just think about that for a second. Not, a letter read out loud, not a family member speaking for him.
Nope. A digital representation, seemingly saying what the deceased might have said.
Which immediately throws up a whole load of legal questions, ethical questions.
Yeah.
It's a lot to unpack.
Okay, so let's start there. How did the court even handle this? I mean, is this kind of thing allowed?
Well, that's the cutting edge part. The U.S. Judicial Conference Advisory Committee. They're actually asking for public comment right now on regulating AI-generated evidence.
So it's that new. They're still figuring out the rules.
Exactly. It shows just how uncertain things are. So the big question in this specific case was that AI video treated as actual evidence.
Good question. What's the difference?
Well, traditionally, evidence has to be, authenticated. You need to verify where it came from, that it hasn't been tampered with.
Right. Chain of custody, things like that.
Exactly. So how do you apply those old principles to something an algorithm cooked up based on, data inputs?
What does authentic even mean if it's a digital recreation? Curious, yeah.
And then you've got the whole idea of victim impact statements.
Okay, yeah. Tell us about those normally.
Traditionally, these are very personal. They come from living victims or maybe close family, people directly hit by the crime. They talk about the impact, on their lives.
The real-world fallout. Pain, loss, financial struggles.
All of that. So can an AI version, no matter how sophisticated it looks or sounds, really do the same job, serve the same purpose?
It feels different, doesn't it? It forces you to rethink what that statement is even for.
It really does.
Uh-huh.
Is it strictly about the lived experience of the survivors? Or could it maybe evolve somehow? Could technology offer a way to voice what someone might have said?
But that blurs some pretty important lines, I think.
Definitely. And you mentioned the judge in this Arizona case. The reports say the judge felt the AI rendering was genuine.
Genuine. That's a powerful word choice there.
It really is.
Yeah.
But how can a computer-generated thing showing potential feelings, how is that genuinely the victim?
And crucially, who decided what the AI said? Who wrote the script, essentially?
Exactly. That genuineness has to be understood through the filter of the victim's family, right? It's their memories, their interpretations.
The prompts they fed the AI.
Precisely. So it's not the deceased speaking directly. It's more like a digital echo shaped by loved ones.
Okay, let's look at the arguments here. On one side, you've got the sheer emotional power this thing clearly had. The victim's sister, she was the one who pushed for it.
Yeah, she gathered, over 40 impact statements from people?
Right. And she kept asking, what would Chris say? That was her driving question.
And her belief, apparently, was that he would have offered forgiveness.
Which is interesting. It wasn't about demanding punishment, but about conveying, peace, reconciliation.
That seemed to be the intent behind it. And the victim's brother, too, he talked about feeling waves of healing, just seeing his brother's face again, even like this.
He felt it matched his brother's character.
And then back to the judge. finding that message of forgiveness impactful and, again, genuine.
So you can see the appeal, right? The potential for comfort, maybe some kind of closure for the family.
A sense of connection, perhaps.
Yeah.
The technology provided a sort of presence, even if it was virtual.
Okay, but then there are the arguments against using it, and these raise some pretty big flags, legally and ethically.
For sure. The main one being a victim impact statement is supposed to be a personal account from someone alive, someone directly affected now.
A dead person. Well, they can't give that testimony, by definition.
Right. So it comes back to the purpose. If the statement is meant to show the ongoing impact on survivors,
Then an AI recreation, however well-meaning, changes that purpose entirely. It's not the living speaking about their experience anymore.
and the words themselves, this is critical, I think. They weren't Chris's actual words.
Yo.
They were based on his family's understanding, what they thought he'd say, the prompts they gave the model.
So whose voice are we really hearing? Is it Chris? Is it his family's interpretation? Is it just the AI processing data?
It raises huge questions about, control, authenticity. Who gets to craft that narrative?
What if family members disagreed on the message?
Exactly. And we also heard reports, didn't we, about legal professionals,
Yeah.
lawyers, courthouse folks,
Yeah, expressing surprise, even doubt that this would normally be allowed in court.
which suggests it's a real departure from standard practice. Why were they surprised? Probably things like due process.
How do you cross-examine an AI?
Right. How do you challenge its truthfulness like you would a live witness? It adds a whole new layer of complexity that the system isn't really built for.
And think about how it was made. The sister and her husband fed videos, audio recordings, into an AI model.
You could definitely argue that makes the output an artificial construct. A representation, yes, maybe a loving one, but not a direct statement.
It introduces that layer of interpretation, maybe even bias, even if unintentional.
AI models reflect the data they're trained on. The output depends entirely on the inputs.
Okay, so let's pinpoint some turning points here. The judge's reaction seems massive, saying, "I loved that AI."
Oh, absolutely pivotal. That kind of comment, that acceptance from the bench.
It could set a precedent, couldn't it? Signal to other courts that maybe this is okay sometimes.
It certainly carries weight. Judicial acceptance can open doors. Huge implications down the line.
And the content of the statement, too, that message of forgiveness.
I believe in forgiveness and a God who forgives.
Yeah, and the visual details, the gray baseball cap, the beard things that made him look like him.
Those specifics likely enhanced that feeling of authenticity, especially for the family and the judge. Made it feel more personal, less abstract.
Bridging that gap between the real person they remembered and this digital image, at least emotionally. And then the sentence, 10.5 years for manslaughter, handed down after the judge saw the AI video.
You can't help but wonder, right? What role did it play? Did it influence the sentence? Was it just part of the overall picture?
We can't know for sure, obviously, but the timing, the judge's comments, it feels like it was definitely a factor considered.
It seems very likely it was part of the context for the judge's decision.
So the verdict came down, 10.5 years. But the bigger story really isn't just this one sentence.
No, it's the debate this whole thing has sparked.
Exactly. The fact that this AI statement was allowed, even just this once, has lit a fire under the legal community and beyond. What's really at stake here?
I think it just highlights how fast technology is moving. Sometimes, much faster than our laws or our legal frameworks can keep up.
Yeah.
We're being forced to ask really fundamental questions again. What counts as evidence? What is testimony? What does justice even look like when AI gets involved?
Absolutely. This single case just opens up so many profound issues. If AI can convincingly mimic a deceased person, what does that do to our idea of justice?
How do we process grief when technology can offer these kinds of digital ghosts?
And what is testimony if a computer can generate it based on secondhand information?
And looking forward, as AI gets even better, more sophisticated.
Which it will.
The potential for, amazing things, but also really significant challenges in our courts. That potential is only going to grow.
This case really feels like a fascinating, maybe slightly unsettling glimpse into that future, doesn't it? Leaves you wondering.
It really does. How do we ensure fairness? How do we prevent manipulation as this tech becomes more common in our legal system? Big questions with no easy answers yet.